What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your boy Clint. This is Pub Sports Radio, and these lines are brought to you by Superbook Sports. We're talking Total Takedown, UFC Vegas 65, overs, unders, how long we think these fights are going to last. If you want the full-on breakdown of every single one of these matchups, check out the Monday show with our guy Brandon Olivas from none other than Fight Ready itself. Let's get on into this thing. Teresa Bleda taking on Natalia Silva. Total set at 2.5. We've got the over minus 220, the under plus 195. And we talk about women's MMA a lot on this show. The overs are always juiced. We expect decisions, and it takes special ladies at this point to go ahead and cash those unders for us. Teresa Bleda is a power wrestler. That's all she does. She's a grinding grappler, but her ground and pound is vicious. I can see her getting a TKO in this spot. Natalia Silva's more a stay to the outside, pick and poke at you. Not a whole lot of finishing ability from her from what we've seen, but there's probably submission upside if this thing does hit the ground. There's a chance at the under, but I don't like it. I think Teresa Bleda probably mauls Natalia Silva for 15 minutes if she gets her there. Otherwise, we get a classic Silva run around, pick and poke type of fight where Bleda can't close the distance and struggles to get her to the ground. That pogo stick, kickstand type of long-legged defense. This thing probably squeezes over, but I want nothing to do with it. This is low-level women's. One of these girls could show up and be way better than we ever expect them based on the footage. That's been a thing. We've seen that a lot this year, so I don't want to lay minus 220 going against that, but I expect it to probably go over. Fernie Garcia taking on Brady Heastand, another 2.5. Over is minus 190, under is plus 170, and I feel like you're kind of picking your fighter here. Fernie Garcia, big pop in his hands, fast hands, accurate punches, good counters. Brady Heastand is a solid wrestler, another mauling, chain wrestling, grinding type of grappler. If this thing goes over, Brady's probably winning by decision. If this thing goes under, you'd think it was Fernie catching him coming in with a big punch or something like that. So it's kind of pick your poison. I'm going to say over. I do think Brady Heastand probably gets the win here. And if he doesn't get the win, he can at least hang in there for us and get that over 2.5. Not another one that I'm really excited about betting. Maria Oliveira taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. Another 2.5. Over is minus 205. Under is plus 180. And Vanessa Demopoulos is a monster. She's got those running back thighs on her. Maria Oliveira is a strong kickboxer. She's got the big body kick. She keeps the range well, high volume. I think we can count on Vanessa Demopoulos' durability in this spot. I think Maria Oliveira has such a massive advantage on the feet. You know, the teammates of Vanessa Demopoulos have talked about her strengths and where she's improved and how much she's gotten better at timing and distance and decision making. I think those things all lend to her having a much better performance, but that performance probably is very grapple heavy. So if she can get in on Maria Oliveira, take her down, drag her to the mat, camp out on top, I expect her to win a 15-minute decision with that type of a game plan. Probably not finishing. She's very small for the division. Maria Oliveira on the other side of this thing, if she's in the driver's seat, I mean, Vanessa's shown off some serious toughness. We've seen her take big punches from people, hang in there, grit her teeth, and go to work trying to get to the judges' scorecards to find a way to win. So I think we can count on that durability. I'd say over 2.5, minus 205. I expect this thing to go the distance. Kevin Natividad taking on Ricky Turcios. Another 2.5, minus 200 is the over, plus 175 is the under. And I do think we're going to need to see that over again. Kevin Natividad is coming off back-to-back knockouts. However, Ricky Turcios, not really known for his power striking ability. Kevin Natividad training at Fight Ready. I like the move to go out there. You'd expect him to probably have a better game plan, be in better shape. We know what Fight Ready does to these guys. But at the same time, I can't really go out there and say that he's going to dominate someone like Ricky Turcios. I think it's death by 1,000 cuts. Ricky Turcios goes back to being the reincarnation of Tony Ferguson that we're all used to seeing, and he probably dices Kevin Natividad up for 15 minutes. You know, scrambles once he gets taken down, gets back up to his feet. Once Kevin slows down, he loses the pace battle. I don't expect a finish here on this one. Ricky Turcios probably gets back on track by decision. Miles Johns taking on Vince Morales. Total set at 2.5. The over is minus 145. The under 2.5 plus 125, and this is where things get interesting. Miles Johns has a history of finishing his fights in the second and the third round, whether it's him getting knocked out by somebody because he gets tired from all that explosive wrestling, or him breaking somebody and then pounding them through the canvas floor. These fights tend to end in the second or the third round. Vince Morales has got that big-time power, that overhand right. If not for the leg kicks, he's shown some serious durability. He likes to keep coming forward. He never stops looking for the finish, and he's always winging heavies. This would be my violent spot. This would be the spot where I feel like Miles Johns can either get in on the hips of Vince Morales, break him down, wear him out, TKO him on the mat, Or if he doesn't, Vince Morales can take advantage of that. And once you've got a gassed out Miles Johns, he probably cracks him with something big. I kind of like violence here on that one. Under 2.5 plus 125. Myra Moroz taking on Jennifer Maia. Total set at 2.5 here. Over is minus 340. Woo-hoo-hoo-wee. Under 2.5 is plus 280. Now we're talking. Like, these are the women's MMA price tags I'm used to. These are the ones that get me interested. Myra Moroz is going to be a tall, long boxer. She likes to rip the body. She's very technical. Jennifer Maia, very tanky, very short, stubby, likes to come forward, wings, power shots. Very durable, very tough. And she's got that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to fall back on. So this is a spot where I think we see another changing of the guard. Myra Moroz is just kind of the future of the division. We've seen Jennifer Maia hang around, but she makes such awful decisions inside the cage. If this thing ends up in a ground scramble, don't be shocked at an arm bar. They could come at any point in time in this kind of a fight. If this fight stays on the feet, don't be surprised if one of these ladies lands a big shot that we're not expecting to do much damage that ends up doing well. The way Myra Moroz goes to the body, that's something Jennifer Maia hasn't faced a whole lot of in the UFC, and I could see actually maybe mounting up and being kind of a standing TKO type of finish, or even a ground and pound one. We've seen her get some takedowns. We've seen her ride that body lock. You never know. It's women's MMA. Crazy shit happens. Jennifer Maia is not to be underestimated in this spot. Her arm bars, that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, it's nasty. She absolutely could get a finish here in this spot, so at plus 280, I'd be tempted to take a flyer at the under on this one and just hold my nose. Zhalgas Zhumagulov taking on Charles Johnson. Another 2.5 total. Over 2.5 is minus 220. The under 2.5 is plus 195. And I think this is the return of Energy Charles Johnson. I expect him to come out and do some work, but his work is always wrestling. Zhalgas Zhumagulov comes from the Russian regional scene. We know he knows how to handle that. He has takedowns of his own. He's got good, strong hips of his own. Very physically powerful. He's another little fire hydrant, but I think Charles Johnson will technically just be able to outwork him here. Maybe give him the type of fight that Makayev gave to Charles Johnson the last time out, where he has to settle for back position and control time sometimes, but that'll be enough to get it done. Charles Johnson breaks people and then ramps the pace up the deeper the fight goes. Round 2 and round 3 TKOs are all over his pre-UFC record, the regional scene run. Zhalgas Zhumagulov, not a guy that's easy to finish, not a guy that's been finished a whole lot in the UFC, but we have seen it before, and he is getting older. Don't rule out a late finish here in this spot, but more often than not, I think these guys probably just kind of grind away and we get another close fight. I'll say over 2.5, minus 220. Jack Della Maddalena taking on Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. And this one, we finally have a 1.5. The over 1.5 is plus 105. The under 1.5 is minus 125. Jack Della's talked about putting Danny Roberts in a body bag in that first round. He knows how this fight is being set up for him. He knows what's being presented to him. It's an opportunity for a highlight reel finish. It's an opportunity for him to show out. Now, Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts, decent boxing, decent wrestling. He's pretty well-rounded, but that durability seems like it's starting to fade. You know, you saw it in the last fight. He was able to somehow hang in there and not get finished, but he could have been finished. That fight could have been stopped multiple times. I think the way Jack Della rips to the body, I think the way that he scrambles and gets on top, that eventually he's going to get to Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. It's just a matter of when. I don't know that Jack Della round 1 is necessarily the strongest move for me here. It seems like that's what the UFC is setting up. It seems like that's what they want. I'm just not sure if that's going to happen with the way Danny can wrestle, with the way he's stood up to some higher level competition. This fight may take a little bit longer to resolve. I do think it's Jack Della inside the distance, but the 1.5 makes me a little bit nervous. I will say under 1.5 at minus 125. Either a late round 1 or an early round 2 TKO, but it's not one that I think is like a ship it for the boys type of spot. Muslim Salikhov taking on André Fialho. Total 1.5. The over is minus 160. The under is plus 140. Now, Muslim Salikhov, we saw him get decked in his last fight. It was a round 2 finish. He's getting older. He's slowing down a little bit. It's getting easier to clip him. André Fialho, we know he's got that big power. He's a big guy for this weight class. He's a solid striker, and he is absolutely a force to be reckoned with when he is on point. Now, Muslim Salikhov, he's got some finishing upside himself. The spinning wheel kicks, he throws bombs in the pocket. This is a guy that always wants to go to war, but he can kind of lull you into that low volume type of pace. So I think André Fialho wants to have a big bounce back, but coming off a knockout, I think he'll maybe take his time a little bit more with it, and that plays right into the hands of Muslim Salikhov. I'd be tempted on this over 1.5 at minus 160, but with the firepower both guys seem to have, and with the durability questions I have about both guys, I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends early. So definitely not one I'm looking to lay minus 160 on, but for the sake of the show, I'll pick the over 1.5. Waldo Cortes-Acosta returning quick on a fast turnaround against Chase Sherman. Another 1.5. The over is minus 145. The under is plus 125. And I'm worried about Waldo's legs. Like, coming back this quickly, he's obviously had zero time to train or improve. He hasn't even had that much time to rest and recover up, and his legs got beat to shreds by Jared Vanderaa. Chase Sherman can go right back to that leg kicking game. The other thing about Chase Sherman, he keeps a higher pace. He himself is more hittable because he puts himself in spots where he can get hit, and Waldo Cortes-Acosta is going to be there for that kind of a game plan. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we get a boxing heavy attack from both these guys, and either Waldo falls over from a leg kick and Chase Sherman is able to end it, or if Chase Sherman just gets over aggressive in the boxing range and Waldo turns out to be the better boxer who hits harder. This fight has a under 1.5 all over it to me. We see these big sloppy heavyweight fights. Waldo Cortes-Acosta just went 15 minutes with Jared Vanderaa, so everyone's kind of expecting that same kind of a game plan. I think this might be a get out of dodge quick type of situation. Both guys kind of coming into this fight unknowing. Waldo, short turnaround. Chase Sherman was supposed to fight a few weeks ago. I don't know how much either of them wants to be there, and I don't think they want to get paid by the hour. I actually think this fight ends pretty quickly, one way or the other. Ion Cuțelaba taking on Kennedy Nzechukwu. We've got a 1.5 total here. Ion is, the minus 130 to the over 1.5, plus 110 to the under 1.5, and I think both these guys have serious finishing potential here. We've seen Kennedy work on his wrestling and his grappling, especially in that last fight. We know he can pull the Homer Simpson out if he wants to on the feet, keep that range, keep that pace, stay at distance, and then hurt his opponents from there. Ion Cuțelaba can nuke anybody in the first round. We know he's got the big blast double legs, vicious ground and pound, kind of struggles to hold people down, and then also, throws his own neck in there for guillotines pretty much anytime he wants to. So there's way reason for both these guys to finish this fight. I think the way Kennedy paces himself, though, it kind of sets up for a later finish. If Ion is in the driver's seat here, Kennedy's going to be on his back, and it's going to be up to Kennedy to make something happen from that position. Whether it's a reversal, whether it's grabbing a neck, whether it's waiting for Ion to slow down, which he does do because he does everything with force and power. I think this fight makes it into the second round, maybe even the third. I'll say over 1.5 minus 130, but the way Ion fights, you're going to be holding your nose the entire time, sweating that one out. So again, not a home run, ship it for the boys type of spot, but I'll pick the over 1.5 at minus 130 and hope this thing gets stretched into the second round. Sergey Spivak taking on Derrick Lewis, 1.5 for this one. The big boys are throwing down. Over 1.5 is minus 105. The under 1.5 is minus 115. And it is just something about Derrick Lewis. He finds his way to the third round. Like every single time he gets into a competitive fight, he drags it deep and waits for his opponents to slow down and tire out. Then he nukes them or he gets hit to the body and calls it quits. Sergey Spivak is not the kind of striker that I expect to see maybe take advantage of Derrick Lewis's weakness, hit that body, go to work where we've seen him collapse before. He's a grappler. He's going to come in, he's going to look for the takedowns, he's going to try and wear Derrick Lewis out and then ground and pound or sub him. I think Derrick Lewis is very quickly getting into meme territory at this point because he's going to catch people. Every once in a while, Derrick Lewis is going to knock somebody the hell out, and we're going to be reminded exactly who Derrick Lewis is. But if he doesn't get that KO, he's ready to hang it up and come back and fight the next time. He's turning into Bob Sapp. Derrick Lewis is turning into Bob Sapp, where if he doesn't get it done in the first 5 minutes, it ain't happening, and he's okay going home. That's kind of how I feel about it at this point. I do think this fight ends quickly and ends violently. If Sergey Spivak gets on top of Derrick Lewis, he's very aggressive. His submission game is on point. He should be able to take advantage of something and get Derrick Lewis out of there. If he can't, he's probably going to end up a lot like Curtis Blaydes. He's going to come in and have a bad time shot, eat that power, not like getting hit, and then have to back off or cover up. In the Apex, Derrick Lewis seems to be undefeated in that small cage. People got nowhere to run. There's no finesse in that tiny itty-bitty little cage. Derrick Lewis gonna find you. So I think this fight ends early, and I've got a weird feeling that Derrick Lewis reminds us what he can do in that first round on Saturday. So I'm tempted on the dog here, but I think the under 1.5 is a fine spot. If you want to parlay up, doesn't go the distance, or find a 2.5, I think those are fine looks as well in this spot because I just don't see Sergey Spivak having like a long-term long-term game plan here for this one. Derrick Lewis is too dangerous, especially in a 5-round fight. We've seen it happen before where your opponent tires out or you tire out instead of them and it turns into a dice roll late. I think these guys are going to want to get it done as quickly as possible. That's the Total Takedown, folks. I'll see you tomorrow for the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. Hit us with a like, subscribe here, and join Pub Sports Radio if you haven't already. Good luck on all your degenerate action. Let's roll.